Good morning, I'm Jenny Rhodes. I work for the University of Maryland Extension. I'm the county ag agent. Here in Queen Anne's County, are the Extension Educator for Agriculture and Natural Resources. This morning we're here at our 26th annual Harvest Breakfast, held here at our wonderful Queen Anne's County 4-H park right outside of Centreville. So the mission for today is to bring our communities together, the business community with the farm community, our people in government, so we all come together to celebrate the harvest. We're not quite done the harvest, but we're almost done. So as part of the program, our job is to educate the people that don't know about agriculture, about what's going on. So our speaker this morning will be Miss Janelle Eck. She recently received the title of Miss Maryland Agriculture at the Maryland State Fair. She is a local farm girl here in our county, grew up here. Her mom and dad, Mark and Vicki Eck, they have a poultry and grain operation, and she's going to talk about the impact of agriculture and have people think about how agriculture first impacted them.
Today we have raised $1,351 that we will divide between the 4 food banks, and we have 30 cases of food to donate. So hands to everyone. Thank you very much. So every year I give you a little recap on what's going on in ag. So we'll start with that, and then we'll get on with our main speaker this morning. So, the winter time is really busy for farmers. People think, well, they get done the harvest and they don't have anything to do, but there's always things to do. So whether they're hauling grain to the mills, or they're taking care of animals, they're fixing equipment, they're washing up equipment, they're putting it away, and certainly attending meetings. So part of my job is to bring the research-based education information to the farming community. We have an agronomy day right here at our 4-H park every year, and I invite the specialists to come in. This year we had a record attendance. We had over 200 farmers and farm businesses here. So farmers have to have a license. We have to have a license for everything. We have to have a license to apply manure. We have to have a license to apply fertilizer. We have to have a license to apply pesticides. So in part of all that, there has to be a recertification program. And that's part of my job, is to bring that recertification to them in partners with the Maryland Department of Ag. I partner with Shannon Dill. She's my cohort in Talbot County. And we put on a Mid-Atlantic Women in Ag Conference. This year will be our 16th year in putting on this conference. Last year we had over 175 women that attended that, so we're very lucky. We have a very strong following of women in ag. So it's not only the women farmers, but it's also the women that work in the businesses, that work for FSA, that work for natural resource conservation, that work for the banks, that work for farm credit. So it's very important that we all certainly work together. Let's see, and we cover lots of topics on risk management, legal risk, human risk, production risk, marketing risk. So on with the planting season. Corn, soybeans went into the ground very well. We were certainly very lucky. We had abundant supply of rain, but as of farmers, we always have to complain because we never get enough rain. So, but that's just all part of farming. We had a really good wheat harvest. Our farmers have done a really good job in handling the quality of the wheat, and a lot of that comes from a lot of the research that goes on with the university. So we got wheat out, and then we put in soybeans. So when we plant soybeans after wheat, we call that double crop beans, or we may call them wheat beans. So there's a lot of lingo there, certainly to learn. And did you know that we grow soft red winter wheat? The wheat that we grow is made into cookies and pretzels. A lot of it goes to Pennsylvania, but of course some is fed to the poultry industry here on the shore. And then of course comes my favorite time of the year, and that's the week of the fair. There's no better week than for me for the fair. And there's thousands and thousands of hours and volunteers that make this park and this fair one of the best on the shore. So we are certainly very blessed here to have that in our county. And then fall harvest for some farmers. We're not quite done the harvest. Still some soybeans out there to be harvested. Corn is done. We've had some record year yields here in the county, just because we had ample rain in the spring, and then we had a nice cool summer, so that certainly does help. So it's pretty exciting to go out and be able to ride on the combine with farmers and see that corn rolling through. So hopefully we'll finish up soybeans before Thanksgiving. I think we've got, I thought in one farmer's point, I think we got about 5 days of good weather, so if it keeps blowing, then hopefully we'll get, so hopefully we'll get that done. But overall, farmers, I think, are pretty pleased with their yields. They weren't as pleased with the commodity prices. Commodity prices have fallen dramatically over the last several years, but that just makes all of us in business have to sharpen our pencils, and we have to get, sometimes we have to control our inputs, and we have to look for those times when we can lock in prices. So, we're certainly always doing that. Let's see. And then certainly with fall comes cover crops. So if you see anything green in the field right now, that's cover crop. That could be wheat, rye, barley, forage radishes. So farmers plant cover crops to take up any excess nutrients that may be left. And I'm happy to say that Queen Anne's County was #1 in the state, and we had 71,000 acres that were enrolled in cover crops. So farmers, will give you a hand for that. Thank you. And then I'm sure most of you know about Maryland Farm and Harvest. It starts another season this year. Actually just started this week. There's been lots of farmers that have been on Maryland Farm and Harvest. So if you've been on Maryland Farm and Harvest, I want you to stand and be recognized, because it takes a lot of time to be in that. So stand up so we can recognize you. Come on, I know who you are. Ryan, Chris, Bob Arnold, Leverton, stand up, stand up. So, when they ask you to give a whole day out of your business, and that's all volunteer, but it's very important that we educate people about, the things that we do. And there's lots of good stories out there. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about high-path avian influenza. We've heard a lot about that in the news this past summer and spring. We had an outbreak, probably Indiana West. 48 million birds were depopulated on 223 premises. So it's 21 states, 211 commercial farms, and 21 backyard farms. Now the state vets tell us it's not if, it's when it's going to happen here. Because what happens is they've had them in all the flyways except for the Atlantic flyway. And when these birds migrate, they kind of all nest together, and they're afraid that they're going to bring it back. But we are doing everything that we can. We have had lots of trainings throughout the state. We partner with the Maryland Department of Ag and with all the industry, and they've had tabletop exercises. Farmers have stepped up biosecurity. No visitors are allowed on farms, so please, if you go on a farm and if you see that biosecure area, please don't go in, because we have lots of people that just say, oh, that doesn't apply to me. But we're doing that certainly for a reason. We have farm-dedicated shoes, farm-dedicated clothes. So there's lots of different things that we're doing to try to keep that away. And that all poultry has to be registered with the Maryland Department of Ag. So whether you're a backyard flock or commercial flock. So if you know anybody that maybe is not registered, or if you haven't registered, please do that. Because if there is an outbreak, Maryland Department of Ag will take the lead in that. And when it does happen, everything will be on their website. So if you do want to keep up to date, it will be on there. But I feel like, we're ready. We have done everything that we can do. We had it in 2004, and we called it, actually we had a 2 and done, but we call it a 1 and done. So once we recognize that there's avian influenza on a farm, in 24 hours it's depopulated, and that's the most important part, that you stop the spread of that virus. So stay tuned. If you want any more information on our extension website, we have a whole page on avian influenza too. So that kind of concludes my little wrap up for the year. I'm going to call our Secretary of Ag, Joe Bartenfelder, up to say a couple words. Joe?
Thanks, Jenny. Jenny really cut down on my time because she asked me if I came to the breakfast this morning if I'd talk about HPAI, high-path avian, and she just took care of the whole wrap-up on it. And you must have listened to it so many times that you got it down perfect. So, yeah, that was great. but we are getting ready for it, and I was talking to the secretaries out there in the Midwest, and like they said that we're light years ahead of where they were when it hit out there, and you're never fully ready, but we're as prepared as we can be. So you know, that's you know, the best case scenario. So I really don't know a whole lot else to talk. I just thought of something. It just my idea just walked out of the kitchen. When I came on, don't make me lose my train of thought. When I came on as secretary in January, one of the first people that I ran into who was very helpful was Rhodes Powell. And you know, I used to serve as a delegate and on the county council. Royden was at the Department of Agriculture then, and when I went back, you know, I said to him, "Damn, you're still here?" And he said, "Well, he took a little bit of a sabbatical and left and then came back." And really, thank God that he did. Because, you know, some of the issues, or the issue that we had to address this past legislative session and get something done was on phosphorus management. And I called him Dr. PMT, Dr. Phosphorus. By the end of the legislative session, I just shortened terminology up a lot and just called him Dr. P. And that's because he referred to phosphorus so much that you know, when we talked and went back and forth, we were talking about, you know, how P was always stored in the soil and this and that. And then we had testimony to give before a House committee on it, and I was given the testimony, and Royden's sitting at the table next to me, and you know, we were talking about phosphorus getting into the bay, and I mentioned phosphorus a couple times. So rather, you know, you always learn, don't be too repetitive and keep repeating the same word too many times. So, you know, then I referred to, you know, we need to stop letting pee run off in the bay. Well, I don't know why, but when I say it, it sounds different than when he said it. Your reaction was the same as the committee's reaction, and he's sitting next to me giving me this elbow. And I'm like, well, I just repeated what you always say. But, you know, Royden retired, and he'll really be missed. And I asked him earlier, I said, you know, what did you do? Time it so that when, because he left November 1st or October 31st or however you want to. I said, you know, he timed it for when the World Series ends. And as you know, after the World Series is over, that's when baseball free agency starts. I said, so what does that mean, that you're a free agent now and you can go and do whatever you want? And he said, you know, kind of like that. But, you know, one of the things that I really remember, and this is the kind of what I call dedicated worker he is. We met with the governor about the phosphorus management regulations and everything. We went over it, we met with, you know, the environmental groups and all that, and the governor's office, environmental groups, the Farm Bureau community, you know, the extension, all that, and we kind of came to a conclusion on where we needed to be on it. And this was like on a Thursday, and the governor's office wanted to make an announcement on Monday, and I said, well, how are we going to get them done? And I just kind of like jokingly, as sometimes I do, I said, oh, well, Royden will have them done by tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And he looked at me like, what are you, nuts? And I said, oh, he'll have them done, not a problem. Well, he sends me an email at 3:35 a.m. Friday morning with the final draft. And he had them done. So that's what I mean by dedicated work. And they were done on that Friday. They were all approved, and the governor could make his announcement on Monday. So, you know, I wanted to bring him out and and say a few words like that. One of the things that I really didn't appreciate that he did, sir, if you're ever up there in the executive conference room, there's like a chalkboard there, and it's got Royden's notes on there, and sometimes I would say some things, and he would make a little notation of what I said with that quote. And he said, yeah, I'm compiling notes to put something together later for these quotes that Joe said. And I see some of the folks here from MDA, and they're kind of like, yeah, we hope that book never comes out. But
All right, so bring Roy up.
she said, bring you up. Can you walk up this far, old man?
Tony.
Then I found out Royden likes baseball, and I like baseball, so we always got to compare where we were.
So we thought really how fitting it would be to kind of honor Royden this morning. He has been just a great advocate for agriculture. He's been a person that I can always call. So Royden, we have a couple little things for you, and Tony wants to say a couple words too. So Tony, this is for you.
Thank you.
Friend of Extension.
Thank you very much.
Another hat.
All right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tony.
Well, Royden, on behalf of the Queen Anne Soil Conservation District and the Board of Supervisors, we'd just like to thank you for all your years of dedicated service to Maryland agriculture and the resources it relies on. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Obviously, I dressed for the occasion. I've been in the kitchen preparing a little breakfast for you. It's been my pleasure to serve the Department of Agriculture and the Maryland agriculture industry for something close to 22 years. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. My roots are in agriculture. Many of you know that I farmed for a number of years, so to be able to take that farm experience into public policy has been a pleasure and an honor, and I appreciate the opportunity that everyone has given me. I appreciate all of your support, and I wish Joe every success in the future carrying the department forward. So thank you very much.
I know, Royden, we need to get a photo. Okay. Secretary Tony.
And if anybody wants to go, Royden's retirement party's next Tuesday night.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the 17th at the Elks Lodge in Annapolis, and I've got a secretary citation that he knows he'll get presented that night, and I'm sure he'll enjoy the language that's in it. I'm sure. Looking forward.
Janelle. Roy, you stand in the middle.
In the middle?
There you go.
Straight here.
Okay. There you go. I want this on Facebook in about 5 seconds. Got it. For Twitter. Got it. All right. Good. Thank you, Roy.
I know, right?
All of them. It's very, yes.
Okay, now on with our speaker this morning. Our speaker this morning is a very dynamic young woman. She grew up on a farm here in Queen Anne's County. Her family, they have a grain and poultry operation. She lives with her mom and dad, Mark and Vicki Eck. And I can't look at Mark because he's going to make me cry. And with the two older brothers, Alan and Kenny. It's just, there's no words that can really be put on the relationships that we build. You know, Mark and I went to school together, we worked on prom together, and then you see, our children grow up together. I mean, these relationships are ones that, are very, very hard to build. And when you see a young lady like Janelle, it's really, it makes my heart feel really well. Anyway, she grew up with a love of agriculture and a very hard work ethic. She's a very busy young lady. She's going to tell you this morning in her presentation about all the many things that she does. Most recently, she was named 2015 Miss Maryland Agriculture during the Maryland State Fair. The purpose of this Miss Maryland Agriculture contest, it's sponsored by the Farm Bureau. But the purpose is to surface young women with an agriculture background to serve as leaders, and they will promote our ag industry and the farm bureau organization throughout the year and in the future. So please welcome Ms. Janelle Eck.
Thank you, Miss Jenny. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me here this morning, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. I'm excited to be here, and I hope you all enjoyed your local products for your breakfast. I will say that during my presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to ask during the presentation because it'd be easier to describe about like FFA during the FFA information. So don't feel afraid to just throw your hand up in the air and I'll answer any questions. Before I get started about who I am and what I do, I want you all to think about when agriculture first impacted you. Were you younger? Did it hit you when you were in high school or when you were older? Now, let's think about how it impacted you. Did you grow up on a farm? Was it in 4-H, FFA, or did someone straight up tell you about agriculture? Each of us have a different ag story and have been impacted differently. So I would like to start off and remind you to lock those thoughts in your head and think about your impact and how you can make that impact on someone else during my presentation this morning. Moving on about who I am. I am Janelle Eck, as Jenny said. I live in Ingleside, which is here in Queen Anne's County, with my parents, Mark and Vicki, my brother Alan as well, and I live and work with them. We have 1,500 acres, and we till 1,200 acres, producing corn, wheat, soybeans, and barley. My dad owns 7 poultry houses, and my brother Alan leases 5 poultry houses. So together, we raise 1.3 million large broilers a year. Alan has expanded our operation since he's been involved in FFA, and now he raises 300 all-natural hogs a year, as well as baling 12,000 small square bales of straw and handling 50 head of cattle. So that's my background and my ag knowledge that I have learned over these past many years, not too many. I do have another brother. You don't see him around Maryland much anymore. He moved to South Carolina, where he attends college at Winthrop University. He is a senior currently, and he will be going to grad school next year and receive a doctorate degree for physical therapy. So he's not in the ag community, but he still appreciates all that we do. Moving on about who I am, I have been involved in numerous organizations and sports because I always kept up with my 2 older brothers. I was always 1 foot right behind them. Alan was involved in 4-H and FFA and on the wrestling team. Kenny, on the other hand, played every sport possible. Football, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, you name it, he tried it. Because of them, I played soccer and lacrosse and danced, did wrestling stats, was a part of 4-H, FFA, and throughout high school, I was in the National Honor Society, the National Technical Honor Society, and a few other things here and there. So I graduated from Queen Anne's County High School in 2014. I'm currently enrolled at Chesapeake Community College for my 2nd year, and I'm in the education pathway currently. So I have another year there because I had to take off for FFA last year. I have also been active throughout the community. I'm an active member of the Ingleside Community Center and the St. Paul's United Methodist Church. And this past July, I had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go to Costa Rica and serve on a mission trip. I had an absolutely great time to work for God and be His hands and feet for the people down in Costa Rica. Currently, I'm interning at the Maryland Department of Agriculture. I'm working with the Maryland's Best Program. So has anyone heard of the Maryland's Best Program? Raise your hand. Awesome. So Maryland Best Program is where you guys can go on and see where you can buy local products. So we're just encouraging the public to enjoy their own local food. And we also have Harris Teeter and a few other grocery stores that buy local products. So it's great that we're getting the local products to our own Maryland farms. I've recently started with the SUSTA program, which is our international program in the marketing office. So I'm learning about our trades, so I'm really interested to see kind of the other side of agriculture at the Department of Ag. This past March, we reactivated our Young Farmers program here in Queen Anne's County. I'm currently the secretary. Anyone from 18 to 35, we'd love to have you. Our meetings are the first Tuesday of the month here at the park at 7. So we're trying to build a strong program so that we can help our community even more so we can continue to grow. With me this morning, I have Madison Branham. She's our Little Miss Queen Anne's County Farm Bureau. So Madison, would you like to stand up and say hi? Hi. Thanks for coming, Madison. So that's who I am, and now I'm going to move on about when agriculture first impacted me. So in 2004, I was named your Little Miss Queen Anne's County Farm Bureau. My little sash is hanging up there. I still have it. It's a little old, but that's truly when the first impact happened. I did grow up on a farm, and yes, agriculture was part of my life, but when I was 8 years old, I thought that it was everybody's everyday chores to wake up and go feed animals and care for the farm. It hit me at our county fair when I was talking to an adult about agriculture, and they were completely clueless about where the food came from. And it completely hit me like not everyone knows about agriculture. So later on that year, I attended the Miss Maryland Agriculture competition at the state fair, and I watched my cousin Holly Turner from Cecil County run, as well as our county, Miss Beth Winterstein now, compete. And that moment on, I just knew that Miss Maryland Ag was the opportunity that I could educate the public about our #1 industry. So it was a goal I had since I was that little 8-year girl. Moving on, that year after I retired from my sash, I started the 4-H program with my brothers. My brothers were extremely active and they had pigs, and I knew I wanted to be involved. So as soon as I was able to join, I started and I got my first pig, and I've been active since. I have 2 more months left of 4-H, so it's kind of sad, but at the same time I'm excited to be moving on and knowing I have other agriculture things to lean back on. So one thing about 4-H is that it doesn't just impact you and teach you about agriculture, it impacts you about everyday life lessons to live by. So a few things I've learned will be up there in a second, but I wanted to say what our 4-H mission statement is, that 4-H empowers youth to reach their full potential by working and learning in partnerships with caring adults, and that's just what 4-H has done for me and the many other 4-H members here in this room. So throughout 4-H, I have learned about responsibility by waking up and caring for my pigs, working around my school and sports schedule. So that was just one life lesson that I've still learned about responsibility. I have learned to be a team player. As the many competitions you participate in, you learn that you're not always going to win, but you're going to have to be able to take it and know that there's always a way to improve yourself. Then there's the agricultural education side of 4-H. I was in the 2nd Agspiration class that 4-H had. I was able to get trained on how to facilitate with agriculture lessons given to me. So I did that for a year, and that was kind of when my foot got caught in the door about actually presenting lessons. Then 4-H has taught me public speaking. I participated in public speaking for numerous years, but not just the public speaking event, but they have dairy judging that I did. So I was a part of the dairy judging for a few years, and that's also the orange spot extemporaneous speaking that I've learned. So it has taught me how to be prepared for speeches, as well as how to get a point across very quickly with extemporaneous. And I'm proud to say that this past year I was the county winner and went off to states. So that was an absolutely amazing experience. Then through 4-H I've learned organization skills. You had to keep your files organized about how much your pigs weighed in the spring, how much you think they're going to weigh by the fall, each number that they had, and I was a little sister that had to do it for both the older brothers as well. So I kept them from my record book because I needed them to fill out my record book, which is one thing you complete throughout the 4-H. And through 4-H I have learned about time management and money management. As you can see, I was very active throughout my life, so I had to work around my sports schedule with my school schedule and feeding the animals, because that always came first. So I really learned about time management, and then money management is when you got that big pig check after the fair that you had to save enough for feed and another pig next year. So you really had to manage your money throughout the next year. Through 4-H, I've also learned leadership opportunities, not only sitting on committees through my club, but also serving as a variety of officers. So it gives you that great opportunity to be a leader in your 4-H so you can be a leader in the future. And lastly, I've learned how to bake. I baked a cake for a few fairs, so that's a great experience because now I can bake cakes whenever I get hungry. So I thank 4-H for that one. So one thing I want to remind you guys is that 4-H may have impacted you. Now that could have impacted you. How can you make that impact on someone else? So how you can make that impact is you can volunteer for 4-H events. You can buy cakes or animals at their auctions, maybe even attend fundraisers or events that the 4-H holds. They are always looking for speakers to help educate them about agriculture and anything because they want you to learn about life lessons. You can judge competitions and give great feedback, even at the club level, county level, and at the state level. They're always looking for someone to judge competitions. If you have any animals, you could be willing to lease them to the 4-Hers that don't have the opportunity to have animals. And you can also teach them how to raise and show their animals properly. And I know the Moore family has done a fantastic job with that. And at my 4-H club, the Cloverleaf 4-H Club, they leased about 5 animals this past year and taught not only the children but taught the parents about the dairy industry and how to care for an animal. So I give them a lot of credit for that. So I know that you guys can help make that impact on someone else. Now, during 4-H, I finally got in high school. I went to my first state convention when my brother was a senior. He went to go get a state degree, and I had the opportunity to attend the session and watch. And sitting in the session hall just clicked for me that FFA was the place for me. Everyone loved agriculture, and they loved being together. And I know my first day of high school, I went to the FFA room, the ag room, and signed up to be an FFA member, had my dues ready and everything. And soon my life changed. My love and passion for FFA grew year after year, and the more events I attended, the more I wanted to do. I participated in numerous career development events, attended every conference I possibly could, and did as much as I could on the farm for my supervised agriculture experience. So the National FFA organization is that the National FFA makes a positive difference on the lives of students through personal growth, premier leadership, and career success through the agricultural education which is in their classroom. So that mission statement pretty much just says that they're making that positive difference on them kids, and they're making them grow personally, become leaders, and be successful in any career choice through their agriculture education. So FFA runs off of a 3-circle model, and without one of these circles, FFA is incomplete. And first, it's the instruction. It's where you go to your ag class and you learn about your hands-on activities and how you, about the diversity of agriculture. So yes, I went in knowing about poultry and grain, and I came out knowing about every commodity and all the animals and pretty much the whole diversity of agriculture, and it was an absolutely great experience. So moving on from the instruction is where you go through your SAE, which is the Supervised Agriculture Experience. This experience is one of a kind. You all have your own experience. So there's the entrepreneurship, which is what my brother had. So it's where you own everything. So he had his own business. He bought a baler and a stack wagon and started baling. So that was where he owned everything and he was his own boss. And then they have the placement, which is where you work for someone else, which that was my SAE. So I worked for my father and my brother and got paid for my hours. And then there's a research and an agriculture education, SAE. So FFA has wanted to expand to not just the rural areas, but to urban overall. So they have started the research and ag ed so that the urban students can do research at their house or at their school and still be an active FFA member. One research activity an FFA member did last year was they did how the salt that goes on the roads and the bridges affects our waterways, and it was very interesting as he went from point A to point B in his research, and I'm pretty sure he went off to nationals and did really well. I haven't heard. And then they have agriculture education, so you learn to write a lesson plan, you go in the classroom and you get hours for teaching, so that's your experience. And then there's a few others here and there that aren't so big because they're brand new. So from your SAEs, you can receive 4 degrees in the high school. The first degree is your green hand degree. That is for first year members. They must be enrolled in an agriculture class know FFA facts, so what the creed is, what the mission statement is, and then they also must have SAE plans. So they don't have to be working yet, but they have an idea of what they want to do. And then there's the chapter FFA degree. You receive this at the chapter level, and you must be enrolled in your second agriculture class. You must have made $150 or worked 45 hours, and then had 10 community service hours. Then there's the state FFA degree, which is why I went to state convention to watch my brother, and I was also able to receive the state degree 2 years ago. You must have been in FFA for 2 years, been in FFA for 3 classes, have made $1,000 or worked 300 hours, while having leadership opportunities in 25 community service hours. And lastly, there's the American degree. So as some of you know, for the Girl Scouts and 4-H, if you receive your Gold Award, it's like the top award, or receiving your Eagle Scout is like the top thing to receive for FFA is the American degree. And that's 3 years, 3 classes. You must be graduated from high school. You must have made $7,500 or a combination of $1,500 and 2,250 hours. You must have leadership opportunities and 50 community service hours. So 1.5% of FFA members receive this degree, and my brother and my father have this degree, and it's just a great privilege to receive that. And then moving on from the 4 degrees that you can receive, there's the proficiencies. So there's 49 proficiencies overall, and these proficiencies are just basically your SAE. So I did the poultry production proficiency this past year, and you send your application into the state overviews it. If you win the state level, then you go to national convention, and it goes to nationals, and the nationals divides them as bronze, silver, gold, or top 4 finalists. I was able to receive a gold medal, so I was really proud of myself. The top 4 go to nationals and do an interview process, and then one of them 4 get to be have a free trip to Costa Rica, and then another one of them gets to win the competition. So there's a wide variety of proficiencies that you can receive. So there's also a travel experience with that. And then third is the actual FFA organization. This is the overall organization and what it all has to offer. So this is where your SAE and your instruction goes into play for the continue of the organization. So they have leadership roles. So you can be a leader by being an FFA officer. I like to say your actions speak louder than words. Some people don't like to have that officer title, but they like to be active, and they do a lot for the chapter. So I consider them still being a leader. So we have chapter officers, which is what we have in these lovely blue jackets here. So they all have positions that range from president all the way to parliamentarian. And then there are state officers in the state of Maryland. And last year I was able to be your 2014-2015 Maryland FFA state president, which was a great experience. Absolutely loved it, educating the public while being a positive image for agriculture. So I will like to say, some of you, the FFA emblem has changed since you had your blue jacket on. Last year it was the jacket over there, and recently they made it digitally enhanced to the back of that emblem on the back of that jacket. So it's really cool to kind of see how the jacket has gone from vocational to agriculture and now digitally enhanced. So that's how our organization has changed. And then moving on from state officers, there are national officers. So 6 people get elected each year. 6 people only have the opportunity to be a national officer each year. You must be a state officer to run for national officer, and you cannot be older than 21. When you're 21, you are too old to be an FFA, and then you become an FFA alumni. So from the leadership opportunities, we have career development events. So there are 25 national career development events, and the state of Maryland has 33. The reason why we have more than nationals is because if 16 states has one career development event, then nationals can make that career development event a national event. So the 3 that we have, or the 7 that we have extra, we are trying to encourage other states to get them, so nationals will one day get them. And the extra ones we have are like tractor driving and horticulture bowl. So they're everyday things that here in the state of Maryland we like to use. Career development events allow you to test drive a career that you want to do one day. So they have agriculture communications to agronomy to dairy judging and dairy handling. So it reaches the whole broad spectrum of agriculture jobs and allows you to test try what job you may want one day in the agriculture career. Then FFA gives you traveling experience, traveling to state convention, national convention, the big exposition up in Massachusetts, conferences around the state, and there's also a national leadership conference. So it allows you to travel across the state, mingle with other people, and build relationships that truly last a lifetime. And then there are workshops and trainings. So the state officers get to go to the chapters and talk about whatever the state officers come up with. We talked about communications and leadership during my year. And then the FFA members get to go to a regional leadership conference, which is here in Chesapeake College. There's 5 regions in the state of Maryland, so Region 5 is the entire Eastern Shore, and they get to attend Chesapeake College for a regional leadership conference. And then there's a state chapter officer leadership training, which is at North Bay, and then there's a spring judging, which is at College Park, and the state convention, which is at the University of Maryland. So they get to travel quite across the state, and it's a great opportunity. Going back to FFA before we move on, how can you help an FFA chapter? Is that next impact point is you can become an alumni. Queen Anne's County currently does not have an alumni, and you only need 10 people to start an alumni. And the alumni would really help not only the chapter grow, but us reach more people and young people who are our future people for agriculture. So I really encourage people, if you're interested, please see me or Mr. Tom Jackson. We're trying to start one, and we'd love for you guys to join. And then not only you be alumni, but you can judge competitions that we have at chapter, regional, and the state level. We really appreciate it. We're always looking for judges. You can attend the FFA banquet and events to show your support. You can help with their fundraisers, chaperone events, coach career development events, which I will go on more about. Frederick County, I will say, they're a little tough on us when it comes to career development events. And I learned that they have coaches come in to teach their teams. So they have their natural resource manager come and teach their natural resource teams. And I believe that's one thing their community is helping them in their specific area so their team can be stronger and better and know their stuff. So we have agronomists, we have dairy farmers, we have everything here in the county that we can go to the high school and help these kids excel in these career development events. And I know that you guys know your stuff, so I encourage you to contact the advisor and help them excel in their career development events. And lastly, I'd say donate so they can attend these fundraisers, gain these leadership skills, because they are our future. And I know that we would be able to grow if we have the donations, because it's kind of hard on us as high schoolers to pay for state convention, our leadership trainings, national convention. So I can't exaggerate what we can do for FFA to help them as well. So the Farm Bureau, I will say I've outgrown my blue jacket in a few years. I've outgrown the 4-leaf clover, but now I always have Farm Bureau to lean on as an agriculture organization. The Farm Bureau's mission statement is that Farm Bureau aims to promote and protect Maryland agricultural life and life. So they have member benefits for each of you if you become a member. So you have to be 18 to be a member, and you can pay your dues every year, and the money goes to the organization to promote and protect our rural life. So the member benefits are insurance, vehicle discounts, industrial supply discounts, travel and entertainment discounts, discounts on products, and numerous service is available. So we encourage you guys to be members and receive those benefits. I know some people are unaware of the benefits that you receive from Farm Bureau, so I would just like to say that Farm Bureau is a great opportunity for everyone to join and to be a part of. Farm Bureau also allows you to travel. They have the state convention the first weekend in December, which is in Ocean City, Maryland. And then there's a National Farm Bureau Convention, which is on Orlando, and it's in the middle of January, so that's a great plus. And then there's the National Young Farmer Convention in February, which is in Kansas City, Missouri. So Farm Bureau has set that next impact from me. On July 8th, I was elected as the Miss Queen Anne's County Farm Bureau. I was able to be that voice throughout my county. I traveled across the county. I did 6 farm tours, and I made a board, which is out in the lobby if you saw it, about each tour that I did, and allowed me to educate myself about our products here in the county. And then on August 27th and 28th, we went to a 2-day process on becoming Miss Maryland Agriculture competition, and I was able to fulfill my dream that my 8-year-old self once had of becoming Miss Maryland Agriculture. So Maryland Farm Bureau and the Maryland State Fair are my sponsors for the current year. My duties are and were to help at the state fair. I was able to go to livestock sale and stand, speak at a variety of dinners and meetings that they had there, and just be a positive image of agriculture walking around. I would be able to attend Farm Bureau events, be at the legislative sessions in the House, I'll be at state convention, I'll be at county events, ag events, workshops, I'll be holding school visits, and this Saturday I'll be doing my first Apple promotion with the Department of Ag, which is a new idea and I'm excited. And then I'll be at farm tours and numerous ag activities that represent agriculture while I'm advocating about our #1 industry. From Farm Bureau, there's a small organization inside of it, which is Young Farmers. The Young Farmers mission statement is to strive to gain strong future leaders while providing benefits to the future generations of farmers. So as I said, we reactivated our chapter, and there are 3 competitions that you have in Young Farmers. First, there's a discussion meet. So there are 6 hot topics that you are known about, and then right before you start, they tell you what your topic's going to be, and you have a 25-minute discussion with a panel of 4 others. So it's a great opportunity to discuss hot topics with other people and get their inputs. Then there's an Excellent in Ag competition. This is a young farmer who stands out in their county farm bureau and Young Farmers program. And then there's an Achievement Award. So it's the young farmer that stands out, but then also stands out in their farm and their agriculture community. And young farmers also have a few extra benefits while being the Farm Bureau members and receiving the Farm Bureau benefits. So how can you help Farm Bureau and young farmers? Simply by being a member. That's the great way to start, because then you will become active into all of our programs. You can also be a sponsor of our organization, attend our events and our banquets. We have a banquet which is going to be in February. We're not sure on a date, or in March. We're not sure on a date right now. So we really encourage you guys to sign up and be members. And I will say Farm Bureau isn't just for ag people, it's for everybody, because we want everyone to be involved and learn about agriculture. So going back to what we thought about in the beginning of our presentation was, how was that first impact? When was that first impact? Now, how can you make that impact on someone else? So I've taught you all the ways that you can help the FFA, the 4-H, and Farm Bureau and the young farmers. So I'm going to challenge each of you that this next year to help in some way, shape, or form to those 4 groups so that you can make an impact on our future generations, because we're going to need our leaders in the agriculture community. So thank you for having me, and are there any questions?
Well, I know you must have some questions for this young lady. No questions?
Can't complain.
Well, thanks to know.
Thank you.
Well, you can certainly see why I'm pretty optimistic about the future of ag. If we have young ladies like this, she is a very busy young lady, so thank you, Janelle. And I want all the FFA officers to stand again, and we're going to give you all a round of applause too, because these are our next leaders.
So Janelle asked everyone to think about how agriculture had actually impacted them. At the end of her talk this morning, I had a gentleman come up. He actually represents one of the local food banks here in the county, but he said he grew up in Iowa and he was actually a city boy, didn't know much about agriculture. But he said his first impact when he was a little boy in a barbershop, and he would hear farmers talking about yields and really didn't understand what yields were. So it's kind of interesting to hear, you know, what's the first impact of agriculture. And I'm sure everybody has a story to tell about how agriculture first impacted their life.